Good afternoon everyone and welcome to the first General Assembly of our illustrious group of Islanders. I would like to commend you all on taking the steps to elect this societal organization committee to draft guidelines as to the society we are to become as we strive to live harmoniously on this island together. These first steps toward the formation of our community show a dedication to the social contract theory, in which Jean-Jacques Rousseau recognized that although humans have individual desires and talents, they inherently know that striving to work together as a group. I am honored that you have chosen me to oversee this committee, and have carefully examined many aspects of a successful society in order to present to you the most logical way for us to proceed. First, I shall quote philosopher John Rawls, who said justice is the first virtue of social institutions. In a just society, the liberties of equal citizenship are taken as settled. I will, therefore, use his two principles of justice to lay the groundwork of our society. His first principle states, each person is to have an equal right to the most extensive basic liberty compatible with the similar liberty for others. The second is, social and economic inequalities are to be arranged so that they are both reasonably expected to be to everyone's advantage, and attached to positions and offices open to all. The second principle, simply put, is that the citizens of a society are to have the same basic liberties such as freedoms of speech, thoughts, holding property, etc. Above all, we must strive to maintain the common good of our community. It is a fine balance we must achieve as a group, to not only respect our individual freedoms, but to also come together and share civic responsibility, as our common goal is survival. Reality is that not all of the 75 people on this island are able-bodied adults. Among us, we have several handicapped individuals and several children unable to shoulder the same burdens and responsibilities as the majority. We must recognize that these individuals will be able to contribute to the successful survival of the group in ways other than physical labor. They can act as lookouts for rescuers, watch the younger children, gather firewood, boil water for drinking, all necessary functions within our community. And they are to be valued just as highly as those physically able to build our shelters, gather food, and devise sanitation systems. It is my opinion that we should act as utilitarians, and follow the ways of Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill in believing that if the consequences are good, then the action is right. Our moral attitudes and actions must be cultivated for consideration of our fellow citizens, teaching the younger generation among us an acceptable way to continue. According to Mill, we need to strive to ascertain what is best for our society as a whole while also considering the individual needs of its citizens. This said, we must be careful not to fall into a society with the structure of socialism. According to Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, the state of universal equality and prosperity is desired, yet logically, this can lead to a collapsing of our social system as no incentives to work hard exist, and all citizens fall into an attitude which only serves to promote a communist-type society. This sort of governing reflects the life we have left behind. When the reward is great, the effort to succeed is great, but when government takes all the reward away, no one will try or want to succeed. We must not let that happen here, as the formation of a communist society will accomplish no more than the abolition of private property. And since we are starting from scratch, we must realize that as we grow on this island and accumulate our own personal property, the natural formation of segments of society, or levels of influence, or hierarchy are bound to occur. I feel, as Aristotle did, that a good and careful democratic governing style will benefit the common good as long as we, as a whole, decide who will rule with the group's interests at heart, and will not be self-promoting. While polling the adults in our group for input last week, I discovered a handful of shared values among us. These values must be considered in the formation of our society, and they consist of religion or faith, the right to feel safe, ethical behavior, basic freedoms of justice and thought, family, community, healthcare, and individuality. These common values show a framework where we will decide how to proceed with our society. tied in with the basic physical needs I spoke about earlier, such as food, water, shelter, and sanitation, and including a form of government, police, enforcement, and recreation. We can structure our lives accordingly. We are obligated to address any personal issues we may stumble upon. Issues such as racism, sexism and homophobia must be addressed in such a way as to respect the individual and the group as a whole. We must learn to look beyond such labels and see our fellow islanders as not only black, white, Latino, Asian, male, female or homosexual, but as the proud and hard-working individuals we will work alongside to create a society free from bias and violence. We have the unique opportunity to create our perfect world. Let us be the society that raises above these discriminations and be one people. The benefits of the basic needs must be provided to all citizens regardless of sex, race, or sexual orientation in the egalitarian way of thinking. However, we must be careful not to overcompensate due to these factors and practice retributive justice, because all of us would be striving to fulfill their responsibilities. All citizens must fulfill their responsibilities in order to enjoy the benefits, limited as they may be, of this society. The fact that we are humans, and have the same inherent feelings of what is right and wrong, is what sets us apart from mere animals. Animals may have communities in which they also have roles, but the roles are instinctive, whereas ours are taken on with much thought and deliberation. Therefore, we must follow what philosophers labeled the formal principle of justice, requiring that benefits and burdens be distributed fairly according to relevant differences and similarities. Superficial factors such as race and sex should not be considered relevant, and each situation will be judged individually. Referring back to John Rawls's veil of ignorance, we must ignore the superficial circumstances of our society and choose options that we can live with as individuals, no matter what our status in our former lives. This will ensure consistency in our decisions at any given moment if our rules are set up with this stipulation in mind. We can then apply fair justice to all citizens at all times by disregarding irrelevant information. My friends, the social contract theory states that the authority of government derives from a voluntary agreement among all the people to form a political community and to obey the laws passed by a government they collectively select. I am thereby suggesting that this committee of 6 people, whom we have already decided as a group to draft a document defining our society, continue to serve us as our acting government. If there is any opposition to this, we will then move on to a vote in which all citizens aged 21 and older are qualified to vie for a position on the committee. We will then proceed to ascertain what talents and services each one of us is able to contribute to the construction of shelters, hunting and gathering food, water purification and sanitation in order to meet our basic needs. Once these things are accomplished, we will begin to formulate a plan for responsibilities for each one of us in order that we all may benefit in some way from being a part of the community. After responsibilities, will be the formation of a police force of some type, along with a way to enforce any laws of behavior we may conclude are in everyone's best interests. Following the formation of laws will be the recreation and miscellaneous jobs such as timekeeping and emergency plans. Timekeeping will be important as we will want to have the opportunity to change members of government on a regular basis to ensure that all get a fair chance of serving the group. This will be an efficient way of not only avoiding a totalitarian state, but also a state of laissez-faire capitalism, for as we grow in size and competency, we want to avoid self-interested competition, and continue in the vein of the common good. In order to keep a fair and just system, in lieu of a monetary system, we will need to construct a way of earning tokens and devise payment of tokens for food and such, and we will need someone to keep track of the token credits and debits. This system will ensure that we will not fall into a communistic way of life, but will provide incentive for productive contributions to our collective lives here on the island. Individuals must have the opportunity to contribute to the successful survival of all of us and also benefit as individuals. We will need to assess the range of religious factions and views existing among us and decide if combining the religions into one non-denominational worship group would work in the society. We need to address the question of splitting into our separate religions, and if this would cause strife among us, instead of pulling us together for a common good. Will it be possible for us to come to an understanding of one God, and appreciate the beauty of this island and all the gifts He has given us to survive? I think it is possible with much calm discussion and striving to understand one and author's views. In the words of Abu Hamid Muhammad al-Ghazali, born in 1058. Everyone who is born with a sound nature. It is his parents who make him a Jew, or a Christian, or a Magian. Through discussion and sharing of our various religions, we may find some common ground on which we can agree, and maybe a new religion will be born on this very island. I would be remiss if I did not bring up William James's belief that no simplicity of mind, no obscurity of station, can escape the universal duty of questioning all that we believe. In this light we must ask ourselves what we believe to be true right now, this instant. Are we truly stranded on a deserted island? Are we ever going to be rescued? Well, if we listen to John Collar, we might use inference to conclude that indeed, we are standing on a deserted island, completely surrounded by water, with no means of transport back to civilization. Or, in the vein of René Descartes' thoughts, are we just a component of another dreamer's dream, and if he or she were to awaken, would we cease to exist? Or were we predestined to survive the crash of Flight 911 in order to discover that no matter how diverse a group we seem to be on the outside, we can pull together and create a society in which all men, women, and children are indeed created equal? No matter what the reason, our reality is here and now, so carry on fellow islanders, and let's make this a society to be proud of.